G'day guys, Adam Kogan here at the SSW Ask Me Anything booth, and we're at NDC Sydney. And I'm with Jordan Knight. How are you, Jordan?
Really well, thank you, Adam.
Awesome. So, I think I will start with, you've been doing XAML for a long time.
I've been doing XAML since pretty much it was first unveiled back in the day, Silverlight.
So it's now 2016. Microsoft are investing in it. Should developers be investing in learning XAML, and are you still a proponent of the rich client?
Oh, rich client in general, absolutely. So, there's a lot of UI frameworks out there these days, especially with new things like React Native coming along. I think that XAML's still got a very strong place in that. And we've also got variations on XAML. For example, XAML in Xamarin.Forms is a little bit different than the XAML in UWP. And hopefully in the future we can bring that more back together. But for now, XAML is definitely a very strong and well-featured design language that's available across platforms. So we've got XAML on iOS, Android, Windows, or just about anywhere. Invest in any platform, any technology that runs on so many platforms, you're not going to lose out.
Okay. And if you choose, so what's the quintessential reason that you choose to do a rich client now in XAML when a lot of people are, kind of naturally going to the web?
Deeper integration with the operating system. So there's a lot of apps that just wouldn't work if they were built on the web, to run on the web, or even with some sort of local integration, they might not work either. For example, there might be performance reasons, or there's deep hooks into certain operating system functions, video playing and recording and processing and things that aren't so great with web-based applications. Also, a lot of the time, the tooling, for example, a XAML app built in UWP, would be a lot quicker to get the same result, the same rich feel, animations, graphics acceleration, things like that. It's a lot quicker time to delivery building with XAML than it would be with HTML. It's higher level of entry perhaps, but I think more powerful in that particular use case, UI.
All right. If you are going, you've decided you want the performance of a rich client. What's the story of making a decision between WPF and a universal app?
So WPF runs only on machines that have .NET installed, so Windows machines, and at the moment that's the same for UWP, pretty much. So UWP comes with a store, so there's a monetization channel there, which WPF doesn't. UWP also runs on other platforms. For example, it runs on Xbox, it runs on phone and desktop, as well as new platforms as we add them. So the new Service Hub and Raspberry Pi. So UWP as a platform is far more flexible, whereas WPF probably can be more powerful maybe, so you can do some fairly highly customized things with WPF. But at the end of the day, I think that modern apps will be built with UWP. There's also a new product from Microsoft, Project Centennial, which allows you to wrap any old WPF app, or most of them anyway, up as a UWP and sell that through the store. So we've got a pathway there for organisations that want to get into the store and start monetizing that way without having to actually go ahead and start from scratch on a UWP.
Right. So all WPF apps should be in the store, really.
Yeah, even games work. I've seen demonstrations where they wrapped up, I think it was Age of Empires or one of those games like that, which is an old C++ app. Yep. In Centennial and then up into the store, and it ran as a UWP, graphics accelerated and everything. So.
Interesting. Okay. Because things are going to get tighter, because now Angular 2 does do desktop and does mobile.
Yeah.
That's the plan, so that competition is going to get tougher. However, I hear that Microsoft are investing more in XAML features and WPF features that will only run on Windows 10.
I'm not sure about that. I think that UWP is designed from the very core up. It's built on .NET Core. It's designed to run on any platform. At the moment, we've got mainly on Windows and Xbox and Raspberry Pi. But at the end of the day, it's not the investments that are made are in the platform. and the platform is now separated from the operating system. So it's built on .NET Core,
Right.
on the Universal Windows platform, rather than actually being tied to Windows itself. So its subsystems shouldn't be in any way attached to Windows.
Okay. All right. So let's moving along to Xamarin. You a big believer in Xamarin, I assume?
Yeah, we've done, before I joined Microsoft, we did a couple of production Xamarin apps at scale. And after initial learning curves, like on any new platform, we started chugging along and finding that all the old favourites were there. You know, they were able to use their familiar patterns such as MVVM and the DevOps flows and things like that were all very familiar to us once we got on the platform. And we've actually built a couple of really fantastic native cross-platform apps in Xamarin in what I'd consider to be less time than it would have been to actually do it on the native platforms. And the added benefit is that we in-house didn't have any iOS or Android skills really. We probably could have figured something out, but being able to just apply our C# and XAML skills, I guess we had a head start.
Did you do it for all three platforms, iOS, Android, and Windows Phone?
Yes, so we've done 2 fully cross-platform apps, iOS, Android, and Windows 10. We also were involved in one that was Windows 10 to Xbox, which was interesting because only obviously, the Xamarin piece works on iOS, Android, and Windows 10, and then you've got to sort of go to more native UWP when you get across to the Xbox side of things. But at the end of the day, whenever you run into a problem that Xamarin can't solve with its cross-platform pieces, you can drill in and do custom renderers, which enable you to light up features per platform, whether that be Thumbprint on iOS or Google Now on Google. Like you can bubble those features up per platform. So I think it's definitely got legs, and now that Microsoft's acquired Xamarin, I think we'll see that continuing on. Like I hope that we see some investments in tooling, and we've also made Xamarin free as part of the Visual Studio Community Edition. So that's the free edition of Visual Studio now includes Xamarin in it, and whereas before it was actually a couple of $1,000 a year per developer for licensing. So we've made it more accessible, and it's been open source as well. It's been brought into Xamarin.Forms, and the Xamarin main pieces have been brought into the .NET Foundation and open source.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for that licensing fix. We've been running these Xamarin Hack Days all around the world, and that was the #1 problem.
It was a massive barrier of entry for getting people onto the platform, and we're hoping that by removing the issue of money and just bringing it back to tooling choices and just wanting to get the job done, that people will flock to the platform and start picking up and seeing it for what it is, as opposed to being what it is expensive.
So what are what's the most popular, what's the quintessential apps that are out there on the App Store that we use that came from Xamarin?
That's a good question, actually. Ardio's Xamarin one. A few of the banks around town. So a lot of I guess there's a lot of local. I don't know which ones we're allowed to talk about, but some of those have been built with Xamarin. There's actually a big list of case studies and things on their website.
I think Slack might be one of them.
Yeah, I don't know, because I've got to be careful because some of them we don't, as Microsoft staff, we're not allowed to talk about.
Right, fair enough.
But they're available on the site, and there's quite a lot now. It's a growing list. We're also seeing Xamarin apps.
Do you know if any of those were Xamarin.Forms?
Not sure. I know that we've built a couple of big Xamarin.Forms apps.
So you're a believer in Xamarin.Forms?
Yeah, we built Boost Juice in Xamarin.Forms, and that's got about 500,000 users or more. And it's fine. It's got animations. It's got lots of video, and you can do this thing where you grab your fruit and drag it onto the drink. And then shake it, and it does this shake animation and orders your drink. So it's got all the extra little bits. It's not just this boring line of business app. Right. And that was all built with Forms.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
All right. So just on the server side, are you done much with ASP.NET Core?
Been following it along for quite a while. I'm really interested in the way it's being developed in the open and following what the team are working on. They've got their ASP.NET or their community stand-up, which they hold every few weeks, which is
great, isn't it?
It's really funny. It's entertaining. So sometimes you're watching and like, I'm not entirely sure I just learned anything, but they're always having a great time, and it's great seeing that the way the team interacts, and then gets out there and shows you what they've been working on.
Yeah.
And it's extra fun. We're like, yeah, well, last week when we said we were going to do this, it didn't work, so we had to take it out. And you sort of see those.
The transparency is phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah, it adds a personal touch to it, and you know, and seeing it open source. I mean, they've got thousands of contributors, and people are actively putting in code into that repository from the public at large. It's incredible. But as far as the actual platform goes itself, I've been hugely interested in its. You know, now that it's cross-platform capable, and we're seeing people spinning up .NET in Docker and things like that, and especially with the push into microservices and things, and Kubernetes and Docker, and the rise of the service fabrics and things like that. You know, seeing .NET being there and being ready, because the timing was pretty good, really.
Yeah.
.NET's ready for cross-platform, and we're seeing this massive uptake of microservices, and Docker is just going absolutely crazy. Azure's got really fantastic support for running up Docker instances, especially microservices nodes and things like that. It's all built into the DevOps workflows now, and so I think it's a really great time to be a .NET developer at the moment.
Right.
You've got access to every platform, including the newest, most exciting, you know, platforms, and that's why I consider that to be microservices and serverless at the moment.
Oh, right.
And we're there with .NET, so.
So last question I'll ask you, Azure Functions.
Azure Functions.
Tell us about them.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. I've been playing around with Azure Functions for quite a while now, and it's basically, you know, you just create a piece of code and then run it. And then you can use a variety of triggers, whether that be files or event hubs, service bus queues and things. So they're trigger based, or you can use webhook, so you can actually call into them, do a piece of processing, and then output it somewhere else. So it could be copying a file, or adding a message into a queue, or simply returning off the webhook a piece of data. What's interesting about them, though, is I think that it changes the way we think a little bit about single responsibility, and whether or not that responsibility. Traditionally, when we think about single responsibility in software development, we're separating out functionality between classes. But I think with the rise of services like functions, we think single responsibility, we take it that next step and we actually separate out the product. And so we can actually got this capability to responsibility for this and responsibility for that, and putting them all around in these microservices as opposed to, you know, little silos inside a product. The beauty of that is you can go ahead and create a function that does one particular thing. It might be copy a file when something else happens, and you create another one that decodes a certificate, another one does this, and you either use it or you don't.
Yep.
There's no, I'm going to use part of it. Like with most products that we build these days, we use little bits and pieces. If I include a NuGet package, I might just use one class. With functions, they're on or off. So you can then start building up this library of functions that you can use for things. And by taking out core responsibility of things from your other apps, these become these free-flowing, versionable little pieces of code that you can update without having to affect all your other apps. So if you've got, say, 25 websites all using an Azure function to validate a token, and you want to make a change to the way the token validation is done and make it depend on, say, you want to go up to a Redis cache and make sure that the token ID is not in the cache, which means that the token's been invalidated. That would be really hard to do across all these different products you've got, but if you just change it in that one spot, all of a sudden that functionality is flowing on as well. So there's that separation of concerns as well. I think once we get our head around how to separate the code out, how to work with triggers, which is going to take a few years, I think, to really get in there and understand it as software developers. We're so used to packaging all up in one big thing. We're just getting around NuGet and breaking them out into that, but this is the whole next thing. Long story short, it's going to be exciting. Haven't quite figured it all out.
Yeah, well, that sounds damn interesting. Well, with that, I'm going to be off to Adam Stephensen's Angular session, and thank you very much. It's been a great conference, and it's great catching up with you. This is Adam Kogan from SSW TV.
Hey everybody, it's me, Scott Hanselman, here with Adam Kogan at NDC Sydney. We're hanging out. It's SSW Video. How are you, sir? That's how you do an intro. No, go ahead. I'll be right here, please.